Ripple's CTO just revealed what could drive up XRP's price. Here's why this matters. That's the headline from the Crypto Basic, and in this video, I'm going to break down why this article was even written in the first place. So, here's the context. David Schwarz, Ripple's Chief Technology Officer, recently gave a pretty detailed reply to several questions regarding XRP and the wider crypto ecosystem. Now, if you're like me and follow Schwarz on X, you know that whenever he posts, you stop scrolling and read. And let me tell you, this one was gold. I'm going to walk you through exactly what he said, and of course, give you my own take on it all. And trust me, I've got plenty of opinions. Also, one of the more interesting questions he addressed was whether XRP is still a critical part of Ripple's vision, especially now that they've launched their own stablecoin, RLUSD, which just dropped last December. So naturally, people are wondering, is XRP still necessary? There's a lot to unpack here. But before we dive too deep, I want to make one thing super clear. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't come from a finance background, and nothing I say should be taken as investment advice. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who loves talking about this stuff on YouTube, purely as a hobby and for fun. So yesterday, something pretty interesting happened. Andrei Jikh. Yes, that Andrei Jikh made a post about XRP now. If you're into personal finance content on YouTube, you probably already know who he is. He's built a huge audience, 2.68 million subscribers. Actually, while he mostly talks about broader finance topics, he does touch on crypto now and then. And lately, XRP has been one of those topics. Here's the thing. His relationship with the XRP community? Let's just say it started off rough. Let me catch you up on how that all went down. His very first video focused on XRP came out on May 28, 2021. Back then, it was titled, "Avoid This Cryptocurrency," complete with him holding up a Ripple-branded coin in the thumbnail. Naturally, that video grabbed a lot of attention, over 385,000 views to date. You'd hope something getting that much reach would be accurate, right? Yeah, not so much. And I don't say that to trash him. I actually think he's built a great YouTube channel and clearly knows his stuff in many areas. But when it came to XRP in that video, he was wildly off base. So I made a video responding to it. At the time, his channel had around 1.58 million subscribers. I knew that a lot of people would see his take, and since we were in the middle of a bull market, it felt important to speak up. I ended up putting together a 38-minute response where I broke down everything he said and why it didn't hold up. Andrei got absolutely torched in the comments on that original video. I don't think he was prepared for that level of pushback. The backlash was so intense that he changed the title from "Avoid This Cryptocurrency" to "My Thoughts on Ripple and XRP." But by then, the damage had already been done. He'd spread quite a bit of misinformation. Again, I think in good faith. I don't believe he was intentionally spreading FUD or that he has some deep-rooted bias against XP. He likely just ran with the first few sources he found, and unfortunately, in the XRP space, those can often be misleading or flat out wrong, especially with the toxic Bitcoin maximalist crowd constantly throwing shade. Anyway, he eventually did see my video. Enough people sent it his way that he reached out. He thanked me for putting it together and said he learned a few new things. He also raised some additional concerns, but ironically, all of those were already addressed in my video, so clearly he didn't watch the whole thing. It was 38 minutes long, but the story doesn't end there. Fast forward to just a few days ago, Andrei has now released a video titled, "Why XRP Could Explode." Yep, from "Avoid This Cryptocurrency" to "XRP Could Explode." That's a pretty major shift. He's clearly come a long way, even if he's still trying to understand some of the deeper mechanics. Then just yesterday, he put out a new post on X. He said, "I know people are very opinionated about this," with very bolded. And he followed that up by saying he's been following XRP since 2014, but still has some unanswered questions. To his credit, questions he asked were thoughtful and totally valid. If it's surprising he hadn't come across the answers sooner, given how long he's been following this space, David Schwarz, Ripple's CTO, actually responded to Andrei's post, and his replies were excellent. I'm going to walk you through each question and answer, and I'll throw in my own commentary as we go. Let's dive in. Question 1. Ripple has 300 banking partners. So why, after 13 years, isn't there massive daily on-chain volume? David Schwarz explained that institutions have mostly preferred using crypto off-chain rather than on-chain. That's starting to change, but it's been a slow process. For example, Ripple itself doesn't currently use the XRP Ledger's decentralized exchange for payments because they can't guarantee the liquidity won't come from shady or illicit sources. Features like permission domains are being developed. To help address this, I'll add this. Crypto adoption is still maturing. Much of the volume you see right now, especially on-chain, is speculative. And centralized exchanges don't always settle trades on-chain anyway. It's like asking Amazon Books in the 90s why they weren't already selling pet food and electronics. These things take time. Foundation is there, it's just early. Question 2. If XRP is volatile, why not just use stablecoins for cross-border transfers? David noted that volatility can be a non-issue, even a benefit depending on the use case. In fact, for fast settlement transactions, XRP's speed reduces exposure to volatility altogether. Ripple's done the math, and it works. Plus, Ripple is basically the only major company using crypto as a bridge asset at this scale. There's no serious competition for that specific niche. Yes, they've launched RLUSD, a stablecoin, but XRP still plays a central role in many corridors, especially outside the US, where stablecoins have been favored for regulatory reasons. Question 3. If volatility doesn't matter due to its use as a bridge, what's the incentive to hold XRP? Schwartz's take. Someone has to hold a bridge asset so it's available at the moment it's needed. And if you don't know what asset you'll need next, holding a dominant bridge currency like XRP makes sense. It provides flexibility and cheaper conversions. From a retail investor standpoint, people like me hold XRP because we believe in its utility. We want volatility, how profits are made. XRP is one of the few cryptos with real use cases and strong institutional backing. That's why I hold it. Question 4. Do we even need bridge currencies if stablecoins will eventually cover most trading pairs? This is a big one. Schwartz responded that if one stablecoin dominated globally, then sure, you might not need a bridge. But that's not happening. Stablecoins are tied to fiat currencies in specific jurisdictions. You're not going to see global adoption of a USD-backed stablecoin in countries that don't want to support the dollar. And even if we have a multi-stablecoin world, you still need something to bridge between them, something neutral and liquid. XRP fits that role perfectly. It's decentralized, borderless, and fast. Question 5. Why would a giant like BlackRock use the XRP ledger for tokenization instead of launching their own blockchain? David's answer was brilliant. It's the same reason Circle didn't restrict USDC to their own private chain. You want adoption? You go where the users are. The XRP ledger already has adoption, and interoperability is key. Plus, launching a blockchain is one thing, building trust and user bases on it is something else entirely. Why reinvent the wheel when proven decentralized platforms already exist? Question 6. Geopolitical risks. Why would countries trust a US-based payment network like Ripple? David made it clear. The XRP ledger isn't US-based. It's decentralized, open source, and doesn't favor or exclude anyone. Ripple company does have licensed entities across the globe, but XRP and the XRP ledger are neutral infrastructure. That's exactly why it's so valuable for cross-border finance. And finally, there was the question, is XRP still essential for Ripple, especially now that RLUSD exists? David confirmed, absolutely yes. The use of XRP as a bridge asset dwarfs any other asset within Ripple's payment infrastructure. RLUSD is great for certain use cases, like collateral, but XRP is still the backbone for cross-border liquidity. And this takes us full circle to what I've been saying for years on this channel. Utility is what drives value. XRP has always had real-world use cases. That's why it's consistently stayed in the top 10 by market cap, alongside Bitcoin and Ethereum. So Yandra is asking the right questions. I'm glad he's revisiting XRP with a more open mind. And I hope this helps anyone else who's been trying to understand XRP's role in the future of finance. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor. This is all just my opinion, and none of this should be taken as investment advice. Always do your own research and make decisions that are right for you.